Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take a moment to talk about something powerful, something transformative, something that is at the very core of what it means to succeed, not just as individuals, but as a collective. I'm talking about collaborating for success. Yes, we often hear about personal achievement, individual excellence, and self-made stories, but let me tell you, success is never truly a solo journey. It is the beautiful result of people coming together, pooling their talents, strengths, and energy for a common purpose. When we talk about coming together to create something meaningful, something powerful. There is one truth that cannot be overlooked in order to truly succeed. Everyone involved has to be moving in the same direction. It's not enough to have great ideas, and it's not enough to gather talented people. You have to align. You have to be on the same page. There has to be a shared understanding of where you're headed and why you're headed there. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're in a car heading toward a destination. You've got your GPS set, the map laid out, and you're ready to go. But every single person in the car has a different idea of where that destination is. One person thinks you're going to the mountains, another thinks you're headed to the beach, and someone else believes the destination is a big city. Can you see the confusion? Can you feel the tension that would arise as you all try to navigate without clarity? This is what happens when a group of people come together to achieve something, but they aren't united by a common goal. There's no focus, no alignment, and just like that car, you'll end up wandering aimlessly, frustrated, and probably turning around in circles, not knowing which way to go. You lose time, energy, and eventually the motivation to keep pushing forward. Now, I want you to imagine the opposite scenario. Picture a team of people working together, each one of them deeply invested in the same destination. Everyone knows where they're going, and they are all working toward that goal with unwavering focus. It doesn't mean there won't be obstacles. It doesn't mean the journey will be easy. But because everyone is aligned, because everyone is clear on the purpose, you are able to navigate those challenges with strength and determination. You're able to push through because the destination is clear and you know exactly why you're going there. That is the power of having a unified goal. When everyone is moving in the same direction, magic happens. Suddenly, what seemed impossible becomes possible. What felt out of reach starts to feel inevitable. That's the power of alignment. That's the power of a clear collective intention. I've seen this play out time and again in my own life, especially in my career. When I first started out in television, I had a deep, burning desire to tell stories that mattered. I wanted to create a space where people could be seen, heard, and inspired. I knew that I wanted to change the way people felt about themselves, about their lives, and about the world around them. That was my North Star. But I couldn't do it alone. I needed a team of people who believed in that same vision. I remember the early days of building my talk show. We didn't have all the resources or the fancy equipment, but what we did have was a team of people who believed in what we were doing. We were all on the same page. We knew the impact we wanted to have, and we worked tirelessly to make it happen. There were days when things didn't go as planned, when challenges arose that seemed insurmountable. But because we were united in our purpose, we didn't give up. We kept pushing forward, and eventually we created something that touched the hearts of millions of people around the world. That's what happens when you are united by a shared vision. It gives you the resilience to keep going, even when things get tough. It gives you the clarity to make decisions that are in alignment with your goal. And most importantly, it gives you the energy and the momentum to create something truly extraordinary. But here's the thing, having a common goal isn't just about saying we want to succeed. It's deeper than that. It's about understanding why you want to succeed and what success looks like for everyone involved. It's about taking the time to get crystal clear on your purpose and making sure that every single person is not only aware of it, but invested in it. You see, every single person involved has to be committed to that vision. They have to feel a sense of ownership over it. They have to believe in it just as much as you do. That's what creates the synergy, the power, the unstoppable force that moves you forward. I've often said that when people align themselves with a purpose greater than themselves, they tap into a source of energy that is almost limitless. It's like plugging into an outlet of universal power. Suddenly, you're not just working from your own reserves, you're pulling from something much bigger. And that's what happens when a group of people come together, united by a common goal. They're not just relying on their individual strength, they're drawing from the collective energy of the group. And that is a force to be reckoned with. But here's the other thing you need to know. In order to have that shared sense of purpose, you have to communicate. You have to be willing to have honest, open conversations about what you're trying to achieve and why it matters. You can't just assume that everyone understands the goal. You have to talk about it. You have to make it clear. You have to make sure that everyone is on board and that everyone feels connected to that purpose in a real and meaningful way. I remember when we were building the togetherwewin network, there were times when things felt chaotic. We were trying to do something that hadn't been done before, and there were moments when it felt like we were all over the place. But every time we came back to our vision, every time we reminded ourselves of why we were doing this and what we wanted to achieve, everything started to click back into place. It's that clarity, that alignment that makes all the difference. So I want to ask you, what's your goal? What's the vision that's driving you? And more importantly, does everyone involved understand that vision? Are they connected to it in a way that fuels their passion and determination? Because if they're not, then you're not going to get very far. You have to take the time to ensure that everyone is not just aware of the goal, but deeply invested in it. Now, I know that getting everyone on the same page can be challenging. It requires patience. It requires vulnerability. It requires leadership. But let me tell you, the rewards are worth it. When you take the time to create that sense of alignment, you set yourself up for success in a way that goes far beyond what you could achieve on your own. Think about the most successful teams, the most successful companies, the most successful movements in history. Every single one of them had a clear shared goal. They knew what they were working toward, and they were relentless in their pursuit of it. And that's what I want for you. I want you to experience the power of alignment, the power of unity, the power of having everyone rowing in the same direction toward a common purpose. But let's be clear, having a shared goal doesn't mean that everyone has to think the same way or contribute in the same way. In fact, one of the beautiful things about collaboration is that it allows for diversity of thought, creativity, and perspective. But even within that diversity, there has to be alignment. There has to be a clear understanding of the destination, even if the paths you take to get there are different. I often think of it like an orchestra. Each musician is playing a different instrument, and each one has a unique role to play. But they're all working together to create the same piece of music. If one musician decides to play a completely different song, or if they're not in sync with the rest of the group, the whole performance falls apart. But when everyone is aligned, when they're all playing their part in harmony with a shared goal, the result is breathtaking. That's what it means to have a collective vision. It doesn't mean that everyone is doing the same thing, but it does mean that everyone is working toward the same outcome. And when that happens, when you achieve that level of unity and focus, there is no limit to what you can accomplish. But it takes work. It takes commitment. It takes a willingness to put ego aside and focus on the greater good. It takes the courage to have difficult conversations, to address misalignment when it arises, and to continuously bring everyone back to the shared purpose. And let me tell you, it's not a one-time thing. It's not like you set the vision once and then you're done. No, you have to keep coming back to it. You have to keep reminding yourselves and each other of why you're doing what you're doing. Because as time goes on, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to lose sight of the goal. But when you make it a habit to consistently realign, to consistently refocus on the purpose, you keep that momentum going. You keep that energy alive. So as you move forward in your own journeys, I encourage you to take a step back and ask yourself, do I have a clear vision? Am I moving in the same direction as the people around me? And if not, what can I do to bring us back into alignment? I'm talking about our differences. I'm talking about the incredible variety of perspectives, backgrounds, experiences, and talents that exist among us. And let me tell you, it's in that variety that true power is found. You see, it's easy to seek out people who are just like you. It's easy to surround yourself with those who, the way you think, who see the world the way you see it, who approach problems the way you would. But where's the growth in that? Where's the breakthrough? Where's the innovation? If everyone around you is a mirror of yourself, then you're just living in an echo chamber, hearing the same ideas bounce back at you again and again. That might feel comfortable, but it doesn't move you forward. It doesn't challenge you to grow. It doesn't expand your horizons. True success, true greatness comes from welcoming differences. It comes from understanding that we are all pieces of a larger puzzle, and it's only when we bring those pieces together that we can see the full picture. Every person, every experience, every unique story adds a new color, a new dimension to that picture. And that is where the magic happens. Let me tell you a story from my own journey. When I first started out in television, I came into a world where there were very specific ideas about what made a successful talk show. There was a formula, and if you followed it, you'd find some level of success. But I knew deep down that I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to bring in different voices, different stories, different perspectives that weren't being heard. And at first, that wasn't easy. I had to fight for those voices to be included. I had to convince people that this wasn't just about following a formula, but about creating something new, something bigger than what had been done before. And guess what? When I leaned into that, when I embraced the idea that including a wide range of voices was not just important, but essential, everything changed. Suddenly, the show wasn't just a success, it was a phenomenon. People from all walks of life saw themselves in the stories we told. They felt heard, seen validated in ways they hadn't before. That's the power of embracing the full spectrum of human experience. Think about it. When you bring together people with different histories, different ways of thinking, and different talents, you create something so much greater than the sum of its parts. You get fresh ideas. You get innovation. You get solutions to problems that you never would have thought of on your own. And most importantly, you build something that is more inclusive, more reflective of the world we live in. The truth is, we all have blind spots. Every one of us, no matter how smart, no matter how experienced, no matter how well-intentioned we are, we don't see everything. We only see the world through our own lens. But when you open yourself up to others, when you allow their perspectives to inform your decisions, you start to see things you never saw before. You start to understand that your way is not the only way, and that other ways of thinking can be just as, if not more, effective. This isn't just about doing what's right. It's about doing what works. When you make space for different viewpoints, you create an environment where people feel safe to contribute their best ideas. They feel valued, they feel heard, and when people feel that way, they bring their full selves to the table. They're more creative, they're more committed, they're more invested in the success of the whole group. I'll never forget a moment early on when I was working with a team that came from a variety of different backgrounds. At first, we had our share of disagreements. People came at problems from different angles, and it sometimes felt like we were speaking different languages. But instead of pushing back, instead of trying to force everyone to think the same way, I leaned into it. I encouraged people to bring their own unique experiences into the conversation. And what happened next was incredible. We came up with solutions that I never would have thought of on my own. Our differences became our strength. I've seen it happen over and over again in my life and in my career. When you gather a group of people who come from different walks of life, who have had different challenges and who see the world in their own unique way, you are setting the stage for something truly remarkable to happen. You are creating a space where innovation can thrive. You are building a team that is more resilient, more adaptable, and more creative than any one individual could ever be. But here's the thing, embracing differences requires a certain mindset. It requires openness. It requires humility. It requires you to let go of the idea that your way is the only way or that you always know best. It requires you to be curious, to ask questions, to listen, and to learn from those around you. And that can be hard. It's natural to want to be in control. It's natural to want to surround yourself with people who make you feel comfortable. But growth doesn't happen in comfort. Growth happens when you stretch yourself, when you push beyond what you know and embrace the unknown. When we embrace variety, we also build something that's more sustainable. Think about it. When everyone around you thinks the same way, you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable to the same mistakes, the same blind spots, the same limitations. But when you have a team that brings diverse experiences to the table, you're better prepared for whatever challenges come your way. You have people who can see things from different angles, who can offer solutions you never would have considered. You have people who can anticipate problems before they arise because they've experienced something similar in their own lives. I often think about nature when I reflect on this. If you look at a forest, it's not just made up of one type of tree. It's a whole ecosystem of different plants, animals, and organisms, all working together, each playing its part in maintaining balance. If you took away that diversity, the forest wouldn't survive. The same is true for us. We need different perspectives, different talents, different approaches in order to thrive. We need people who challenge us, who push us to think differently, who bring new energy and ideas to the table. I want you to think about your own life right now. Who are the people around you? Or are you surrounded by a variety of voices? Are you open to new ideas, to new ways of doing things? Are you inviting people into your life and into your work who bring something different to the table? Because if you're not, you're missing out on an incredible opportunity to grow, to innovate, to succeed in ways you never imagined. I've had the privilege of working with so many incredible people over the years, and one thing I've learned is that the most successful collaborations, the most powerful teams, are the ones that embrace differences. They don't just tolerate them, they celebrate them. They understand that every person brings something valuable to the table, and they make space for that value to shine. And let me tell you something, when you create an environment where people feel safe to be themselves, where they feel valued for their unique contributions, the energy shifts. Suddenly people are more engaged, they're more excited to contribute, they bring their best selves to the work because they know their voice matters. And when you have that kind of energy, that kind of commitment, there's no limit to what you can achieve. I want to challenge you today to think about how you can embrace variety in your own life, in your own work, in your own teams. How can you make space for different perspectives? How can you create an environment where people feel safe to bring their full selves to the table? How can you encourage collaboration in a way that leverages the unique strengths of every individual? Because here's the truth, we are all different. We all have our own stories, our own experiences, our own ways of seeing the world. And those differences are not something to be feared. They are something to be embraced. They are the source of our greatest strength. I believe with every fiber of my being that when we come together, when we embrace the full spectrum of human experience, when we create space for every voice to be heard, we can create something truly extraordinary. We can break through barriers. We can solve problems that seemed insurmountable. We can innovate in ways that we never thought possible, but it starts with a mindset shift. It starts with a willingness to embrace the unknown, to be curious, to listen, and to learn. So I want to leave you with this: don't shy away from what makes you different. Don't shy away from what makes others different. Instead, lean into it, celebrate it. Use it as a tool for growth, for innovation, for success, because when we embrace our differences, we don't just succeed, we thrive. You see, there's nothing more powerful than being able to express yourself with authenticity, whether it's in your personal life, your career, your friendships, or any space where people come together. The key to building something lasting is being able to say what's on your mind, what's in your heart, and what you need from the other person. But more than that, it's about creating an environment where others can do the same. It's not just about having a voice, it's about making room for the voices of those around you. Now, I know it can be hard. Let's face it, being truthful isn't always easy. We've all been in situations where we held back, where we didn't say what we really felt because we were afraid of the consequences. We worried about hurting someone's feelings, or maybe we didn't want to rock the boat. But let me tell you, when you hold back, when you don't speak up, you create a gap between yourself and the people around you. And that gap over time becomes a chasm. Before you know it, there's distance where there should be closeness, confusion where there should be clarity. I remember early in my career, there were moments when I was hesitant to fully express myself. I was trying to navigate a world where I was often the only one who looked like me, the only one who had my background. And I felt like I had to be careful, that I had to fit into a mold that wasn't quite me. But I learned something so important when I wasn't being true to myself, when I wasn't saying what I really believed. I wasn't just doing a disservice to myself, I was doing because when you don't show up as your full self, when you don't speak your truth, the people around you can't fully see you. When you start to open up, when you start to share your thoughts and your feelings in a real, honest way, something incredible happens. The people around you begin to open up too. They begin to feel safe, like they can be real with you in return. And that, my friends, is where true connection begins. That is where real understanding happens. That is where problems get solved, where creativity flourishes, where relationships deepen. In every team I've ever worked with, in every partnership I've ever had, the moments when things started to really click were the moments when we stopped pretending. We stopped saying what we thought the other person wanted to hear, and we started saying what was true, even if it was hard, even if it was uncomfortable. That's the kind of environment where magic happens, where real collaboration can take place. But let me be clear, being open doesn't mean you just say whatever comes to mind without any thought or care for the impact it will have on others. There's a way to express yourself with grace, with compassion, with kindness. Being truthful doesn't mean being harsh. It doesn't mean tearing people down. It means finding a way to say what needs to be said in a way that lifts everyone up. And that takes practice. It takes self-awareness. It takes a commitment to the well-being of the people around you. I'll tell you this, when you communicate in a way that is both honest and compassionate, you build trust. And trust, my friends, is the foundation of every great relationship. Without it, nothing else can truly thrive. Without trust, you can't move forward. You can't build something that will last. Think about the people in your life, the ones you trust the most. What makes you trust them? It's probably not just that they've always agreed with you. It's that they've always been straight with you. They've been willing to have the tough conversations, to tell you the things you needed to hear, even when it wasn't easy. And you know that they did it from a place of care, from a place of love. That's the kind of communication that builds lasting bonds, whether in personal relationships or professional ones. Now, I want to talk about what happens when we don't express ourselves openly, when we bottle things up. We've all been there. Maybe you're in a situation where something is bothering you, but you don't say anything. You think it's not that big of a deal, or I'll just let it slide. But what happens? It builds up. It starts to weigh on you. And before you know it, something small turns into something big. It festers, it grows, and eventually it explodes. I've seen this happen time and time again, not just in personal relationships, but in teams, in organizations, in orgasm. When people aren't saying what they really feel, when the holding back, resentment starts to build, misunderstandings happen, and all of a sudden, something that could have been resolved with a simple conversation is turned into a full-blown conflict. But when you speak up, when you express yourself in the moment with honesty and care, you prevent that from happening. You clear the air. You give the other person a chance to understand where you're coming from. And you give yourself the chance to understand them in return. And that, my friends, is where solutions are found. That's where healing takes place. I can tell you from my own experience that some of the most meaningful breakthroughs in my life have come from difficult conversations. Conversations where I had to be vulnerable, where I had to lay it all out on the table. And yes, it was uncomfortable. Yes, it was hard, but the result was worth every moment of discomfort, because on the other side of that conversation was clarity, was connection, was understanding. But let me tell you something else. This kind of openness doesn't just apply to the tough conversations. It's just as important to express yourself in the good times, too. So often we forget to tell the people around us how much they mean to us. We get caught up in the day-to-day and we forget to say the things that matter. But those words of appreciation, of gratitude, of love are just as important as the hard truths. In fact, they're often even more important. I want you to think about the people in your life right now. When was the last time you told them how much you appreciate them? When was the last time you shared with them the impact they've had on your life, on your work, on your day? Because let me tell you, those words matter. They uplift, they inspire, they create a bond that is unbreakable. I've made it a practice in my own life to make sure I'm always expressing that gratitude, that appreciation. And it doesn't have to be a big, grand gesture. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, I see you. I appreciate what you do. You make a difference. Those words have the power to change someone's day, someone's life, someone's outlook. And they have the power to deepen your relationships in ways you can't even imagine. Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the other side of communication, the listening, because being able to express yourself is only one part of the equation. The other part, the equally important part, is being able to listen, truly listen, not just to hear the words, but to understand the meaning behind them. We live in a world that's so fast-paced, where everyone's trying to get their point across, where everyone's trying to be heard. But how often are we really listening? How often are we really taking the time to understand where the other person is coming from? Listening isn't just about waiting for your turn to speak. It's about being present. It's about being open to what the other person is saying without judgment, without interruption, without the need to respond right away. I've learned that when you take the time to really listen, you open up a space for understanding that goes far beyond words. You start to see things from a new perspective. You start to connect on a deeper level. And that's where true growth happens. That's where real transformation takes place. Listening, like speaking your truth, requires vulnerability. It requires putting your own ego aside and being willing to hear something that might be uncomfortable, something that might challenge the way you see things. But when you do that, when you open yourself up in that way, you create the kind of relationships, the kind of connections that can weather any storm. I've seen it in my own life and my own career. The moments when I truly listened, when I really took the time to hear what others were saying, were the moments that changed everything. They were the moments that led to breakthroughs, that led to healing, that led to deeper, more meaningful connections. So I want to encourage you today to think about how you're showing up in your conversations. Are you speaking your truth? Are you saying the things that need to be said? And just as importantly, are you listening? Are you making space for the people around you to express themselves fully without fear, without hesitation, without judgment? Because here's the thing, when we communicate openly, when we create an environment where people feel safe to express themselves, we create a world where anything is possible. We create a world where problems get solved, where innovation happens, where relationships flourish. We create a world where people feel seen, heard, and valued. And that, my friends, is the key to building something lasting, something meaningful, something powerful. It starts with your voice, with your truth, with your willingness to be open, to be real, to be present in every conversation. So as you go forward from today, I want you to take this with you. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid to say what's in your heart. Don't be afraid to express yourself fully with honesty and with compassion. And don't forget to listen, really listen to the people around you, because when you do that, when you create that space for true open connection, there's no limit to what you can achieve. As we reach the close of our time together, it's important to reflect on the power of working together towards something greater than any one of us could achieve alone. The essence of success lies not just in the individual abilities we bring, but in how we choose to combine those strengths, how we blend our unique perspectives and talents in pursuit of shared goals. Collaboration isn't just a word or a strategy. It's the key to unlocking doors that remain closed when we try to push through them on our own. In every step we take towards success, there's always a moment when we realize that to go further, we need others. We need their ideas, their support, their experience. Success, true and lasting, doesn't happen in isolation. It's the result of the effort, vision, and courage of many coming together, not just for themselves, but for the collective good. That's the beauty of working together. Every voice matters, every contribution counts, and every person brings something valuable to the table. When we collaborate, we open ourselves up to new ways of thinking. But when we invite others into the process, when we create a space for different viewpoints, we expand our horizons. We begin to see opportunities we didn't see before. We begin to understand challenges in ways we couldn't have imagined. And ultimately, we start to realize that the best solutions often come from the interplay of diverse minds, from the blending of ideas that are different from our own. This isn't just about coming together for the sake of coming together. Collaboration requires intention. It requires a mindset that values connection over competition. When we approach our work with this understanding, we unlock a kind of synergy that accelerates success. And let's not forget the power of trust in this process. Working together effectively depends on trust in the abilities of those around us, trust that we are all working toward the same outcome, trust that each of us is invested in the success of the group. Without trust, collaboration falters. But when trust is present, when we believe in one another, we can push past barriers, overcome challenges, and achieve things that might have seemed impossible. It's also important to remember that collaboration isn't just about agreeing with one another. It's not about avoiding conflict or always being on the same page. In fact, some of the most powerful moments of collaboration happen when we disagree, when we challenge each other's ideas in a constructive, respectful way. It's in those moments that innovation happens, in those moments that we find new ways forward, because true collaboration is about pushing each other to be better, to think bigger, to reach higher. The journey to success is rarely a straight line. It's filled with twists and turns, with moments of uncertainty and doubt. But when you have a team, when you have people around you who are just as committed to the goal as you are, those moments of doubt become opportunities for growth. They become chances to lean on each other, to find strength in one another, and to move forward with greater confidence. Think about the times in your life when you achieved something meaningful, something that really mattered. Chances are you didn't do it alone. Whether it was a big project at work, a personal goal you were striving for, a challenge you overcame, there were people along the way who helped, who guided, who supported. That's what collaboration does. It allows us to achieve more, to go further, to reach heights we couldn't reach on our own. As we move forward from here, I encourage each of you to think about how you can foster collaboration in your own life. How can you create opportunities for teamwork, for partnership, for connection? How can you build a culture of collaboration, whether in your workplace, in your community, or in your personal relationships? It starts with a mindset, with a willingness to be open, to listen, to contribute, and to trust. When we collaborate, we are not just working towards success in the traditional sense of the word. We are building something deeper: relationships, trust, shared purpose. These are the things that last long after the specific project or goal has been achieved. These are the things that leave a lasting impact, that create legacies. So as we close, let's carry forward the understanding that true success is not something we achieve alone. It's something we create together through partnership, through connection, through collaboration. Each of us has a role to play. Each of us has something to contribute. And when we come together with open hearts and open minds, there is no limit to what we can achieve. Thank you for being a part of this journey today. Let's go forward, not just as individuals striving for success, but as a community, as a team, as collaborators working together to build a future that is bigger, brighter, and more successful than any one of us could have imagined on our own.